to Business and Life Advice with Ataande Advisors. Today, I'm excited to have a fellow angel investor with me, Rodrigue, who's based out of Tanzania and is also the founder of Serengeti Angels, an angel network based in Tanzania. So, can you introduce yourself a bit as we get started?
Yes, my name is Rodrigue Msechu. I'm based out of Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. We pride ourselves as being the most active angel network in Tanzania. We primarily do deals with founders who are locally based or solving problems for our Tanzanian market.
Wonderful. So let's talk a little bit about Tanzania. What makes Tanzania special as a place to invest? Like, granted, you're from there, so obviously you want to invest it, but why would other people want to look at your market?
At Tanzania, there's so many reasons, but very quickly, the size of Tanzania, if you know Kenya, it's probably double the size of Kenya, almost double the size of France. Then in terms of land, it's arable. We've conserved a lot of space, a lot of nature as well, but we are bordered by 8 countries, 6 of which are landlocked. So think of Malawi, DRC Congo, and think of Burundi, Rwanda, who use our port to get goods in. So lots of opportunities along different value chains, but we also have a lot of wealth in terms of mineral resources. Then young population, because medium age is around 17 years, so lots of opportunities. And I can go on and on, but in my sector, where because we back tech-enabled startups, there is a lot of inefficiencies in how everything works, and that brings in opportunities to solve those inefficiencies.
Yeah, I experienced that on the integration line.
Yes.
So I hope there's somebody who can come in and
who can solve that.
Who can solve that. Now, I would love to learn more about your story. Like, what led you to become an angel investor, create an angel investing network? What's your story behind that?
I studied in Kenya. I worked with the trade office of the Embassy of France, helping French companies to enter East African markets.
Okay.
So I was based in Nairobi, but with a focus on Tanzania, Uganda, Ethiopia. And then I decided to go back to the country, still doing a bit of the same work, but now expanding to international companies coming in. Then, because I was passionate to see how I can help my people, but also how I can make money. So I got a few requests from VCs who wanted to invest in Tanzania, and I didn't understand the space. So I did a bit of research, then found that there is a gap, the missing middle as we call it, where startups that need between 10,000 or say 50,000 to 100,000 have no one who is willing to support them. But also the fact that very few people know about Tanzania as an investment destination for startups makes it super risky. So there is an imbalance in terms of the perception of the risk and the actual risks. Mm-hmm. And the best way to mitigate that is to get people in Tanzania put in the hard-earned cash so that a VC who's not there can at least say, okay, I feel like if local people have invested, maybe there's an opportunity for us as well. So that's the premise that got us to start the Angel Network. But we also did the work of getting our compatriots to jump into the deep end, because we really asked them, you have to commit at least $1,000. We'll take you through the process. And afterwards, you've done your first deal. It's up to you to decide. Do I want to join this Angel Network? Do I want to form mine? Or do I want to invest independently?
The gap in the market, you're saying, is really the pre-seed or friends and family rounds at that point for these startups. So if they're not even able to get over the hump, they can't get to seed or VC Series A, B rounds. Very interesting. What is it like trying to convince a local population to invest in an asset class which is traditionally seen as very risky, right? Like, I'm an angel investor, I love it, but I think it comes from being a founder. Right, mm-hmm. A founder who's like, hey, I want to see this growth. I want to change the ecosystem. I want to help people achieve their dreams. What is it? But I also come from an American perspective with that. Right? What is it like trying to convince locals to believe in this type of asset class, believe in investing in startups?
I mean, it's the approach. It's not easy, but I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I've started a few startups or concepts from high school. A lot of failures, but that excites me, and that's why when I was employed, I knew I wanted to branch out. So with the same mindset, you take it as a challenge. how would I convince my compatriots to invest? And I started with having my friends go in and lowering the ticket sizes. Those who tried before were asking for at least $10,000. So $10,000 and $500 to be part of a network is quite a hard sell, given that in Tanzania you have treasury bonds that would give you 12% and north of that, and so that was a hard sell. So what I did is I knew my friends trust me enough to say, if I put $1,000, I trust this guy. If he loses it, our relationship is worth way much more. That's the starting point. Afterwards, you now build on that and say, who do they know? And I was also deliberate to recruit people who are trusted in the ecosystem. I mean, fast forward to us launching the second cohort of an accelerator training angels, which we did recently. When I did the press release, one of the angels that took part in the accelerator was the permanent secretary of a ministry, and his minister then was the current president. And he was saying this in public, that when I was permanent secretary, the president asked me, well, she was then minister, to work with Silicon Valley investors to see how this could be rolled out. But now, in retrospect, I know that I didn't know a lot. So the program has helped me, but I'm also willing to help and have conversations with the government. He's done 2 deals with us. So now it's easier for him to say, I have invested myself.
That's amazing, and it seems like what you're doing a lot of that work, which I think people don't realize angels, and especially people who run angel networks, so it's not just deploying money, right? It's the educational piece you must do to build up that network, especially if there's no infrastructure or education or culture around investing in that way. And I think it's
absolutely
interesting in letting people know, hey, start with $1,000, something that is worth less than a relationship, right? Something that you're not going to get too upset at if you lose. And then you see people want to do more, or they'll start. It's easier to bet than say, hey, bet all of this at one time. And I was just talking with Abigail from NIBIN, the Nigerian Angel Network, and it seems like I'm
like Nairobi.
Yeah, Nairobi, sorry. From the Nairobi Angel Network, thank you so much. And it seems like they also have that $1,000 ticket size. Well, they're setting $20,000, but they're pulling $1,000 up. And I'm wondering, is that the strategy, let's say across, I know we're focusing a lot on Tanzania, but is that the strategy across Africa, really, to see in the markets that don't have developed angel networks or a startup investment culture? Is it, hey, let's build this network where people have to put together minimal amounts. It's not made $1,000, still a lot of money, but a minimal amount to get to activate them. Would you think that's something that can spread across the rest of sub-Saharan Africa?
Yeah, I would say so. I would say that model would work. But how we got there for us as Serengeti Angels, we came from the premise of saying, look, angel investment is not new to Africans. And these case studies, there's a Harvard case study of a tribe, the Igbo tribe in Nigeria, and how they do it. In Tanzania, there is the Kinga tribe that is from the south west islands, and then you have another tribe up close to the Rwandese border that do similar things. So you don't go through a formal education, but you come in, I have a business, I mentor you for some time, give you capital, and it takes off. So that's the premise that we say we want to introduce angel investment. And as we were thinking through how we do it, you want to build on something that's very close to what people can identify with. Now, what did not work before was an accredited angel investor in the US should have a net worth of at least $200,000 or making $100,000 a year, etc., etc. So now, with that, everyone says, okay, that's out of reach. I probably don't make that amount of money, etc., etc. So we're building, but maybe something very important to mention is the fact that Naiban, the founder, was very helpful to me with tips, but we are also very conscious that we are trying an experiment. We are trying to work with what we have, and we are trying to do research as well. And then I think 5 years down the line, we'll have more data, we'll have more confirmations on what model should really scale.
Yeah, no, it sounds just like a startup, right?
It definitely is a startup. Maybe just to add on to this, when we did the first accelerator, that was this year from January to April, at the back of it, we got a partner to help us pay a consultant to do research on what we are doing. Is it scalable? Is it feasible? And that we published that. It's on our website, Tanzania Business Angel Feasibility Study. So we got to have a number, how many angels can we convert in a year, in 3 years, what would be their profile, etc.
So that's exciting. I would love to know what drove you to do this, because there's the excitement of running a startup, and I think this has been quoted a million times, right? You quit a 40-hour-a-week job to work a 100-hour-a-week job,
Yes.
right? For less pay, right?
Yeah.
For less pay, and hopefully get some upside. But I think it goes even further when you become an angel, right? Because now you're doing that and you're waiting for at least pre-seed and seed stage, you're waiting for 7 to 12 years for an exit, right? If it works out. So what drives you?
There's many factors that drive me. One is the love for my country, our people, and seeing whatever you're doing has a huge impact on people. So here you see it firsthand. When you invest in something else, you probably don't get that good feeling. So that's one. But two, I feel that 20 years down the line, what would be my life? What would be the story that I tell about my life, about my country? So I'm very deliberate to tell that story and to create it. So picking up hard challenges is important for me. But third, there's a huge opportunity in the whole continent, and I'm tired of. And I think you also mentioned that, like you tell people, hey, there's an opportunity to do media, and they don't do it. So I'm tired of pitching to foreign companies to say, hey, look, there's an opportunity in Africa, but they don't see it as I see it. So how do I convert that? I start somewhere. I start by investing as an angel.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I believe in business, there's a few different ways to make money, right? There's a few different ways to get business, right? One, you do something other people can't. Maybe have a specific skill set that other people, you can do things better. Or you do things other people won't, right? and from that's what I'm hearing. Like, I got tired of people not wanting to do something that's very important. And I think that is something, some people look at angel investors as kind of like money and see as like anchors. And I think it's a whole different personality profile, because it's that impact. If you're doing this, yes, we need the returns. We want the returns. But it is also that love of country, right? That love of continent, that love of humanity that pushes us to make these types of investments when we know the numbers, right? We know the numbers and we know the likelihood for success. When it succeeds, there's no better feeling, but a lot of time it is.
Yeah, and I want to put the spotlight back on you, actually, because I was in the US 3 weeks ago. It was eye-opening for me to see how things are in New York. It's super expensive. So I know you have so much options than doing this work and coming to Nairobi with the jet lag and all that. So I have to take my hat off and say, like, look, don't stop, keep doing it, and you're motivating more people, not only in the US, but in the continent as well.
Thank you, and thank you so much for that. That means so much to me, especially being welcomed. And I think that's partly what I'm trying to do here with this podcast and these videos, is showing other people we are welcomed, and there is a ton of opportunity, right? So my perspective in investing in Africa, other than my love of the continent, right, and my love of the people, was all my wealth is tied to the US. And what happens, God forbid, if it crumbles? What will I have, right? So it's out of love, it's out of hope for growth. But I think also people in the diaspora should also think, should your wealth be tied to one country, regardless of what that country is, right? And looking back to the continent of Africa and saying, you know what, whatever country you pick, I'm going to put some money here, and we already do it. We send so much money back in remittances. Please, if we just change 50% of those remittances to capital that we're sending back and investing in these businesses, we'll create the jobs for our families so they don't need the money anymore.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And that's a big thing that I hope eventually we get. Like, I know people need bread, people need electricity, people need fuel. We know this, but I think we're thinking too short term. We think long term. We start investing in some of the great businesses in the homeland. Soon you'll see our cities, towns, villages filled with jobs and opportunities, because there'll be people like you who's helping businesses, angels, get ready to succeed. Because it's not just the capital, it's also the knowledge, right? It's also the network being involved. Sorry, I got on my little stand a bit. You got me in it.
I'm totally with you, and I completely agree. And just to add on to that, and some of the things I picked up when I was in New York, I stayed at in Little Haiti, and my host took me around, and I saw what the Asians are doing there. And we went to have lunch in a place that used to be a market, but a real estate developer took it up. And so she was telling me that they had to lobby and get the real estate developer to leave a space for the community. And we had some nice Asian food downstairs subsidized so that the community can work. But we got into many conversations, and how things work is that you have to embrace your community and buy from them, mentor them, invest in them. And that, if you think about it, it's the same thing that our diaspora, African diaspora, and be it second, third generation, when you look back, when you give money for them to consume, you're giving a fish. But you have the opportunity to buy a whole boat and fishing rods and nets. So let's do it together. The good thing is that there are players like myself, like Naiba in Kenya, in Tanzania, that are willing to say, hey, let's come together. We'll do the work here. You bring in capital, bring in the knowledge, expertise. We talked a little bit about brain gain. So let's do that together. And good thing is, now the world is a global village, so it's easy.
Yeah, I completely agree. I completely agree about doing it together. I talk about, I'm not part of the Angels Network, but I couldn't do this without Eric Osiawa. I couldn't do this without doing my investments. He has placed me in the vast majority of the deals that I've made on the continent. And now I am looking, I said, okay, you know what, I may have to join an Angel Network, because regardless of what Chet side is on, right, it's better when we are together. Right? The cost of capital decreases in part because we can do better research together. We don't all have to pay for one lawyer, right? We all can just split the legal fees. We can really bend and create the change and have a better voice. And not all the time. I mean, I have the time to interact with startups every single time. Maybe another person in the Angel Network may have. So,
and to add on to that context as well, if Eric is there and is in Ghana, he might add context to your perception of the deal.
And that's so true. That's happened so many times. I've looked at something, he's like, look, give this a real good look. I know it doesn't look great and it's not beautiful, but these guys have something. This guy is super persistent. Because it's one thing for the person telling me they're persistent, it's another thing for a venture capitalist to say, no, this person's because he's been chasing me down for 6-7 years. You need, this is going to break through. They have this deal. So having people who can verify things, and I do that in, I guess, informal ways through my friends network, but being with a group of people who kind of have the same mission as you in terms of planting seeds of capital and intelligence into people, right? So I would highly suggest looking at the various angel networks that are available in whatever country you're looking to invest in, and putting in your money, especially if it's $1,000. It's a great way to get your feet wet. Right?
True. And shout out to Eric. I met him in 2017. I was just moving back. He actually doesn't remember, but I was sitting in the audience and he was talking about investment and fundraising. Now I'm doing what he used to do. So I get called. But what I love about how Eric has approached, and I think Real recognizes Real, I talked to him and he told me, I've come to Tanzania a few times. I'm persistent. I've had my failures, but I really believe in that market and I believe in the young people there. And so I think it's easy for him to see someone who also has a belief that this problem, I'm going to fix it. And I'm going to be persistent until I have a solution.
And that's what it takes a lot of times. Like in angels as well, it's that persistence. The formula for success doesn't really change just because you have money now, or you deploy money. It's that persistence. It's, as you said, that togetherness. And I think that persistence kind of was led to you having, was it the minister?
Yeah, the permanent secretary.
The permanent secretary, right? To be part of that. Think about the doors that are going to open up in the future now. Because networks are interesting in terms of once you start getting into this, before I started angel investing, like I knew of some angels, but I didn't have deep relationships.
Yeah.
But once you start doing it, you just put your now you're part of the circle, right? Because we know how it feels, right? Exactly. So it's easy to bond, and you start seeing, oh wow, I'm connected to this person and this person and this person, and you form relationships for yourself and for your business. So I can't wait to see 1, 2, 3 years what becomes, who is part of Serengeti Angels now because of the work you did in 1, 2, 3 people who joined, and then the branches start looking amazing.
Ripple effect.
Yes.
I'm sure it's going to happen.
Me too. So one thing I would love to do, and I do want to be very respectful of your time. So one thing I would love to know, and I think you touched upon this, how you don't want to kind of resent that you didn't start 20 years later. When people think of Rodrigue in 25 years, what do you want them to say?
First, thinking of it, I have always been like a Pan-African from growing up and reading stories about Nigeria and the continent, South Africa, etc. I come from a country that is very, very proud of our contribution to the independence of the continent. You might not know, but we in Tanzania are happy that Mandela had our passport when it wasn't popular in the 60s, late 60s, before he went to prison. So we did a lot as a country to help out and get our brothers independent. So I grew up in that, and the reason why I speak good French, and you should actually take French classes, my friend, because I know you don't speak French.
So I tried taking French, and then it was messing with my Spanish and my Portuguese. I was forgetting that, so I stopped because it was just jumbling everything in my head.
Yeah,
maybe I'll turn back to it.
Yeah, but Portuguese is important. Spanish, it's not spoken as much in the continent, but I took French because of that feeling of knowing that half of the continent, I want to work in the continent, but half of the continent doesn't speak the language I speak. So I'm proud to speak Swahili, very proud to speak English and French, now working on my Chaga, and I'll learn more languages. So that was one thing growing up that I thought I wanted to do. Now, looking back and coming back to your question, in 25 years, I want to be part of the story of the private sector in my country. That this was tech investments happened, unicorns happened because there was a foundation that was laid by these people. I mean, I can give shout outs to people who motivated me in Tanzania. Ali Mfuruki, who unfortunately passed on some years back, but he did a TEDx talk about why Africa is not rising. He's Tanzanian. I urge you to have a look at that because he really thought about the private sector and how that could change. And the context here is that our country, when we got independence, was socialist. We only opened up the markets from the 90s. So we are learning how to do this. Kenya has always been open, and so I want to be that part of that story. Sorry, I took you around, but...
No, I love that. So what I've noticed from the people of Tanzania, you're very soft-treading and not like prideful or boastful. That's what I've really noticed. But I did want to emphasize, because there's something powerful. Me and one of my employees, we were looking at some stats about Tanzania yesterday, and we were looking because somebody who wants to build a specific type of company for the financial markets came to us, so we're digging into some background. We saw that the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange, I think the market capitalization under that, by our calculations, and I might have known with my the value was under $1 million. I think it was about $700 million for the total value of all companies on the stock market. And why I bring that up? Because what you said is so powerful. Being able to contribute to creating several unicorns, billion-dollar companies in Tanzania, when your stock market right now is under $1 billion, is going to completely transform your country.
Completely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can give a few statistics also to just build on this, because I know I'm talking about Tanzania, but the potential in the continent is huge. So the size of insurance industry in Africa, the gross underwriting that happens is, I think, south of about $80 billion a year. 80, yeah.
Wow, okay.
But 75% of this happens. This is underwriting, right?
Okay.
So 75% of this happens in one country,
Okay.
South Africa.
I see.
And then you have Tanzania, Uganda, Kenya, and Ethiopia combined. They make less than 5% of the underwriting. And there's a document by McKinsey, some research by McKinsey that has these statistics. So what here I mean is the potential for a startup, for example, who is solving problems in the insurance sector.
Mm-hmm.
There is lack of access, there is lack of innovation in the industry. Someone needs to disrupt it. But just a small disruption, you have a huge value creation. And I can give you other statistics that are interesting as well. In 2008, here in Kenya, we were all talking about access to finance is a big problem. Many of the people are not banked. This is 2008, before Safaricom came up with the M-Pesa. So fast forward, 2022, 58% of the GDP of the country runs through mobile money. And here they have a cap on trading not more than $1,000 per account. So you can do more than $1,000 a transaction.
Right.
So because
at one time or in a day.
Yeah.
Okay. I get it.
So the central bank has capped that. So that gives you an idea of the opportunities of, look, if we went the normal route and said, hey, how did we create banks in the US, brick and mortar, etc., we wouldn't have made it.
No.
Yeah.
You completely leapfrogged, and in many ways, you were ahead of what we have in the US, Venmo and other things, because you're already sending mobile money. If anything, you look at Venmo, it is in a way mobile money. That's one of the major apps we have in the US for transfer of money. And I think there's so much to touch there. There's something I wanted to dive into regarding the underwriting and the insurance, right? So 5% of 80 billion, I believe, is $4 billion. You stating that and increasing that is so important. People, I don't know if people realize insurance is big money. And money from insurance or money from insurance premiums can also unlock an economy or unlock wealth. And what do I mean by that? Warren Buffett's, people say one of the best investors of all time, right? Warren Buffett is a lot of the cash he got to utilize from investments was because of his control and interest or his control over Geico, which is an insurance company in the US.
Interesting.
And that's still billions of dollars in cash, which thankfully he's one of the best investors ever. And he was able to parlay that into being one of the world's richest people because he was using those premiums which created other companies, which created more jobs, which created more wealth for shareholders and things like that. So what you're touching on, like unlocking that, or being the person who unlocks it and creates those premiums, creates those insurance instruments for people, I think is something you touch on, but I think it's super powerful, and hopefully you find that.
Look, someone has to do it, and that's where there's a brain gain, right? Someone probably in the US or UK that is thinking, let me do something, come, we'll try to work together, and that's how we change the continent, right? But all this is to show you the potentials that are there. So insurance tech is interesting. We're excited about a startup that is doing something towards credit scoring, for example. That's infrastructure that will allow that to happen. But all these pieces need to be built.
In the US, because there's so much infrastructure already, right, and Canada as well, I guess, in Western nations also, we're thinking, what's the next cool dating app, or what's this?
Yeah.
It's
a nice to have.
It's a nice to have, right? Here on the continent, there's so many needs, actual needs from infrastructure and foundation that needs that there's still ability to build these things. Like even energy, right? Energy, grids, plumbing, whatever. There's so many real needs that can change societies. So that's one of the reasons I'm excited about investing in Africa, and I think other people should be as well too.
Yeah, I mean, as you speak, I'm like, do you want me to give you more numbers? For example, in the energy, and just to show you the potential. In Tanzania, we have the hydro power that came on the grid from last year, and it's going to produce 2,115 megawatts upon completion. That's a mega project that we're excited about. It's going to more than double the capacity of the country. We're producing, before the Julius Nyerere hydropower, we're producing 1,600 megawatts. So we can build industries with that. Now, we have that, but compare that to South Africa, not even anywhere else. South Africa, they have about 58, it's 58, while we are at 5,000, and they still have load shedding in South Africa.
Yeah, that's what I was going to think. There's still so even in a country that is so advanced in many stages, there's still these infrastructure problems.
Yeah.
So across the continent, you can solve these issues, and if you solve in one country, move on next and explore another country and build that way. So I think many angels, and one of the things I want potential investors when you're looking at investing in Africa, I know people limit to countries, but also I think of it as what if these boundaries went down? What if there was more free trade between these countries? What if it was easy to do business in one business? Because these problems that you're solving, they scale into other countries, right? So you're fixing the infrastructure. Okay, I need to train people this way. I need to set up a hub and spoke line, whatever, and scale that out. And I think there can be exponential growth in the number of unicorns that come to market once we fix some of these infrastructure issues.
You get unicorns by fixing. Whoever is fixing it, it becomes a unicorn. But one thing I want to add on to the thought you're putting across is the fact that it's important, if you're in the diaspora, to speak to people who are doing stuff in the continent.
Yes.
Very important. For me, before going to the US, it was my first time. My American friends kept asking me, so what do you think is going to happen? I'm like, I just don't want to be short somewhere because that's what I keep seeing, right? Obviously, it's a problem, but it's not what the media would portray out, right? And so I'm guilty of like judging a country without going there and thinking, okay, what's going to happen? But it's all fine. So same thing for Africa. Like the narrative that is out there is completely skewed. I'm happy that we have your podcast. I hope you keep telling these stories, but if you are in the diaspora, do speak to people who are working in the continent, not who have not set foot here.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's that perspective of being, this neighborhood's not as dangerous as the TV makes it out to be.
Yeah.
Or this problem is bigger than I knew, or hey, this works really well. And I think that's so powerful, like what Eric is doing with us coming and touching ground right in Nairobi. Because now we're actually seeing, sometimes I'm asking him, hey, why are these guys not sending me reports? Like, I don't need a report. No, I don't need a report every week or even every month. Like, give me a report every quarter. I'm an operator. I know how it is to run a business. You can't say, but give me a report every quarter. And he's like, look, you see the files they got to put out just to get from point A to point B. It's a lot. So, stepping on the ground and being around people. What I did when I started investing, or before I started investing in Africa, because I was born in Ghana, but I was raised in the U.S. I lived all over the world, but not really in Africa, right? So I didn't know. So I started going around, and this is what you could probably do, regardless of in the U.S., I went to the Ivy League schools, Harvard, Penn, Columbia. They have Africa business conferences. So I went there and I learned from people investing there and say, okay, let me listen. What are the problems they're talking about? What's going on? And I did that, and I was just listening. And actually, that's where I met Eric. I met him at Georgetown. He was speaking at Georgetown. So I went down to Georgetown, and he was speaking there. I always asked all the, hey, I'm looking to do this. I invest in a few. And he just really took me under his wing and was so open. And that's something I'll say to the diaspora. Africans are very open to helping out. The passion you all have, me too, and I am African, but the passion you have, I'm saying this as somebody, you live here, you have for improving what's going on in your country makes you enthusiastic in a way to bring others in and show them the ropes. Right? And show them the ropes. So don't feel afraid to reach out. Instead of cold call, it's something that actually maybe lift your spirits, because now say, hey, other people think this is as important as I do. Right? Other people are willing to put their money there and improve the situation. So that's something I really push out. Now, as we finally let you go, first of all, he's been super patient we moved our room. We had
Pole,
pole. So, thank you so much for your patience. But
thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. I also want you to share, like, how can people reach out to you, reach out to Serengeti Angels, become involved? What's the best way to get in contact with you or with your team?
So we have a website, www.serengetiangels.com. We're very active on LinkedIn, not so much on Twitter and Instagram. So do reach out, inbox me or send me a message, and I'm happy to respond.
Now you do actually remind me, you are very active on LinkedIn, because I was
Makes noise.
No, I was too. I didn't have the bandwidth. I did, but I didn't to repost that I was doing this speaking event.
Yeah.
Right. So I just reshared it. Before I even knew you. Right. I just reshared it. So you are very, very. I think you guys posted someone. I was just gonna reshare. I said, look, you can't be lazy. You have to create. You have to create this one too. Right. So that's exciting. I think really connecting. They are very active on LinkedIn. Connecting with them there. It's a special thing we just met yesterday on the panel.
Yeah.
Right? We just met yesterday on the panel, and his willingness to literally wait, I don't know, 30, 45 minutes for us to do this meeting while he's busy. He's been waiting for us to do this interview. So that's the type of hospitality you're receiving here, right? And it's worth putting that effort to reach out and connect. And if for some reason they don't get back, that happens everywhere. Just follow up. Just follow up. So I really push everyone here. Thank you so much, Rodrigue.
Thank you very much for having me.
Pleasure.
And karibu sana to Tanzania.
Karibu sana. So thank you everybody for watching. This is another episode of Business and Life Advice with Ataande Advisors. God bless. Karibu sana. Yes, karibu sana and Hakuna Matata.
Hakuna Matata.